Welcome back into RK Dub. Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And every Friday at 7:20, we are joined by our good friend of VolQuest, Brent Hubbs. Brent Hubbs brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Look at that, Brent. Sponsor and all as we bring you in on this beautiful Friday morning. How are you?
He big time. He big time. That's all it is, right. Kayla.
There he is. Now we can hear you. Brent, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Hope you guys are staying dry and doing well this morning.
We are. We certainly are. Coming off such a great weekend for Tennessee Vols fans. Just paint the picture of what it's been like in Knoxville after that win over Oklahoma as they continue to kind of make people believers.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you have some people who are bothered by the fact that Tennessee went conservative offensively and some of that stuff. But I think as the week has progressed, that you settle in and everybody realizes this team is exactly where most expected them to be, certainly hope to be, and that this team can win in a variety of different styles and do a variety of different things. And the question is, can they continue to grow in the offensive line and protect the quarterback? And can they continue to play at the level of intensity and effort that they played at through 4 games? And that's, defensively, that's the biggest thing that stood out, is just how hard they play and the effort that they play with on that side of the ball.
And that's what's expected. And I know reading your War Room this week, and you can clearly, if you subscribe, head to VolQuest and read Brent Hubbs' War Room. It's excellent information. You had spoke about just getting back to practice, and Rodney Gardner, the defensive line coach, expects a really, heated practice, and that it was not because he was unhappy with the group, but they're just expected to get to another level, right?
Yeah, I mean, he likes a lot of what they're doing, but I mean, by far not close to a finished product on the defensive line, and that was made very clear to his defensive linemen when they went to the practice field on Tuesday. And we all know Coach Gardner's an old school guy. I mean, none of those guys got a day off during fall camp. There were no rest days for defensive linemen. Everybody scrimmaged. It was, this is the standards and this is how we're going to go. And on Tuesday on the practice field, he went right back to that standard. And that standard was, what you did Saturday was fine, but it wasn't good enough. Let's go get better. And that intensity level is something that comes out every day. But Rodney Gardner made sure it was there Tuesday during an open date, because there's no time to relax and rest. There's still plenty of work to do.
It has. Hubbs, welcome back, man. 2 weekends in a row I've gotten you on a Friday, man. Look at that.
I'm impressed, man. I'm really impressed. I mean, that's big time for you that you go back-to-back weeks. I mean, are you okay? Are you pacing yourself okay? Are you going to make it?
I even drove in during the rain, man. Look at that. The concept of working, right?
I'm telling you, man, when I think of you, I think of Auto Parts Country Old Man Strong. That's what I think of.
Oh, somebody's been listening, huh?
I listen to the OTP. I understand what's going on in the Foster's world.
Man, Mike Keefe, man. Check out that OTP if y'all hadn't, man, because Hubbs has. With that being said, I think the Vols had some of those car shop strong back dudes, man, this weekend, as Oklahoma has about 8-9 players out, even including the kicker against Auburn, man. How physical of a game was that, Hubbs, against Oklahoma this past weekend? We did see some big hits.
Well, I think for Oklahoma's offense, it was more physical than they even anticipated it being. I think Tennessee was Tennessee's offense was pretty physical. I mean, Dylan Sampson ran hard, but Oklahoma's defense was physical too. I tell you what, Oklahoma's safeties and nickel, those guys, they're good football players. They're better defensively than I thought they would be, but offensively, they don't know what hit them. I mean, Tennessee, there was multiple plays in the first half of that football game where you just looked at Oklahoma players and they were just getting up slower and slower because, they took a pounding. Tennessee plays, and I mean this as a compliment. I don't mean this as any kind of negative. They're violent on defense. They arrive at the football with really bad intentions. Everybody's seen the hit, on the sideline that knocked the receiver out.
Thomas,
but,
man.
Keenan Peely with some violence in the backfield, and Elijah Simmons set the tone on the first play from scrimmage with how he played. They at all three levels of the defense, the physicality and the violence that they play with is a separator for me with this defense compared to some of the recent defenses we've seen at Tennessee. I'm not ready to call them the 98 defense, Ramon, or even maybe the 2005 defense that was really good. We'll see as it builds over time. But this defense reminds me of the violence that those groups played with because they were violent guys on that side of the ball.
And also for the folks who are listening, the injury report now, because we can get that in the SEC, I'll name them off real quick, Hubbs, and then we'll get back to it. But Jaden Gibson, wide receiver, out. Jaleel Farouk, wide receiver, out. Nick Anderson, wide receiver, out. Andrew Anthony, wide receiver, out. Deion Burks, wide receiver, out. Taylor Tatum. They got like 5 more guys, including the kicker, out against Auburn this weekend. That is a telltale sign of physicality, man, at its best, and I love it, Hubbs. That's how you win games right there.
Well, it is, and for Oklahoma, that's your welcome to the SEC moment. Because no offense to the Big 12, but in the Big 12 schedule, that would have played a really physical game, and then your next game is against, a middle of the run, lower run Big 12 team.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Auburn, and Auburn's going to be physical. Not as physical as Tennessee, but the grind of what they're getting into is the difference in this league. That's why it's going to be really interesting to watch Arkansas this week. They just came off a physical game against Auburn.
Yeah.
They're going to play a physical game against Texas A&M, and then they're going to come home and play a physical team in Tennessee. It's a grind. That's why I like where Tennessee's open date set up, because the cumulative effect week to week in this league is different than it is in other leagues, and Oklahoma's getting ready to figure that out this week.
Speaking of that, too, the physicality and expectation is where I would go, because we had Austin Price on earlier this week, and we brought up Lance Hurd. Speaking of physicality, Larry Johnson had to step in. Dane Davis, man, thank God for him for sticking around and being the savvy vet that he is. But where are we at on a guy like Lance Hurd and the decision to not even let him travel? Was it something that could have been avoided, or what's that situation like, Hubbs?
Well, I think he's going to be fine for Arkansas. I think he's going to be on the field for Arkansas, which is good. It was a surprise to all of us, and I think a surprise to people in the building as the week progressed last week that he was not going to. It didn't look like he was going to be able to go, and then on Thursday evening they get to the point where he hasn't done anything all week, and after everybody consults with everybody, it becomes very apparent that he's not going to be able to play. You get your limitations in your dress roster, so you don't travel a guy who's not going to be able to play, because you needed to take another offensive lineman in his place, because you've got to make sure you have all your bases covered with the travel roster, with the limitations of who you can dress and numbers you can dress in an SEC game. So, I think he's going to be healthier. I think he's going to be that. They need to get him well. I think the reality for Tennessee at the tackle position is this, Ramon. They're going to play 3 regularly, okay? And that's not exactly what everybody's looking for, right? You would like to have your 2 anchors and those guys stay healthy all year long and they play every snap and you move forward. The reality is that John Campbell's not played more than 40 snaps in a game through 4 games. He's been the first offensive lineman off the field. He's not completed a first half of play as he manages through some knee things. So you have to be ready with 3. No one going into the game, you're playing 3 guys, probably 50 snaps or more, 40 snaps or more is what you're going to bowl down with that. So that means now Larry Johnson's got to get, if it's Dane Davis as your 3rd guy, Larry Johnson's got to get ready in a hurry. And then you got to try to push those freshmen to see, in case you get into a really, really difficult spot, you can survive with those 2. But I think you have to understand, we're going to play 3 when we're healthy, quote healthy, at the offensive tackle position. That means Lance Hurd's our anchor at left, and then we're going to platoon on the right side, much like Tennessee did in 22. They had Darnell Wright on the right side. He played every snap, and then they platooned on the left. They got to have those three guys ready to go. Dave's got to play better than he did against Oklahoma. They survived. But here's the thing, too. If you can get a starter out there and he plays the whole game and you're platooning on the other side, if you have to help on one side with protection, you can. The problem you got into Saturday night is both sides needed help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a real challenge for you offensively, because if you only have to help on one side, you can still do some things. But now if you're like, hey, I've got to help the right and the left tackle in pass protection, really changes what you do throwing the football. And in the second half, Tennessee said, you know what? Let's just get out of here. Let's run the football and go home because we don't think we could protect well enough.
No doubt.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us this morning on RK Dub. Brent, I do have to ask you, and we even have people in our F&M Bank chat asking about this. How is the field looking after the Morgan Wallen concert that took place over the weekend? And it's nice because they're going to get an extra weekend to get that all situated.
Well, and kudos to the field guys and the work crews at Tennessee. I mean, what they did was pretty crazy. So the Morgan Wallen people were highly encouraged, let's put it that way, to get all of their stuff out as quickly as they could Monday morning. And when I say their stuff, I mean the plywood that they had down on the field and everything out, completely get it out so Tennessee could start to work on the turf. The plan was always to remove the turf and put a new field down. The thought process from a scheduling standpoint is they were going to remove the turf on Tuesday, Wednesday, get it prepped for the new side and start putting the sod down Thursday, Friday, and finish up Saturday morning. That was the schedule they had in place. Then obviously we see what happens with the weather and everything that's going. And the turf company in Charlotte said, hey, our issue is harvesting, removing from the sod farm. We've got to do that before this rain comes, or you're going to be delayed a week before we can get the sod to you. So they ramped it up from a facility standpoint, got the sod cut out on Monday. They started laying sod on Tuesday. They worked until about 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Then they grinded through Wednesday afternoon and finished up yesterday morning early. And it looks great, and there's no concern about it taking hold. Obviously, it's got tons of rain on it, but they feel great about where it's at. And, I mean, those guys did an unbelievable job. They must have had 40, 50 workers over there on tractors and all the equipment that you need to get that new side laid and sewed in. And it looks good. They should have no trouble being ready to go when Florida comes to town.
We're just going to have Brent Hubbs with our turf update on this Friday. That was excellent.
It was.
That was amazing.
Awesome,
I kind of like that stuff, I guess. But there were, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people concerned. I mean, the Oklahoma turf was a real problem.
It was.
And so coming off of that, all the Tennessee fans, a lot of Tennessee fans were really nervous about the timing of getting it down, the rain that was coming, and everything that was happening. And Darren Siebold and his crew, along with Carolina Green, the turf company they use, man, it was impressive to work. They were a daggum machine out there knocking that out. So I don't think anybody's losing sleep over the turf at Tennessee right now.
Good.
Brent Hubbs, known grass lover. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? Hubbs, the NIL and commitments, man, give and they take away. We snatched one from Oregon, and Oregon said, watch this. Douglas Utu flipped to the Oregon Ducks, man. What went into that process, and will the Vols have a plan to somewhat replace him as a borderline five-star guard?
Well, I mean, Tennessee's out looking and certainly recruiting some other guys. I mean, listen, when you NIL or no NIL, when you recruit at the level Tennessee's been recruiting at this year with this class, and the teams that you beat out to get those guys, everybody's going to keep coming after your commitments. I mean, Alabama's not letting up on Jaden Harmon, the linebacker from Rome, Georgia. He's going to the Georgia-Alabama game this weekend. Why would you not go to that game if you're a recruit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Tennessee's got to have to fight to the finish line for him. You knew that when he flipped from Alabama to Tennessee. With Utu, I think that there was probably, he wants to play tackle. I think Tennessee was pretty transparent with him that they long-term see him as a better fit at guard, but certainly would have given him an opportunity to play tackle. I think there were some people around him and his circle that maybe liked everything about Tennessee from an NIL all the way through Tennessee better than they did Oregon, and that was an influence on his commitment when he committed. And then I think Oregon came back in and probably enhanced their NIL things and told him he could play tackle, and he's got some teammates and some friends out there that he knows, and I think ultimately he felt more comfortable there. And that's the world we live in recruiting. And listen, I mean, you're going to have to fight to the finish line because when you recruit 4- and 5-star high-level guys and you beat out your rivals in the in the South for them, or you're beating out somebody on the West Coast and there's still a West Coast school coming out, I mean, it's hard to hang on, and that's what Tennessee's working on doing. And with Douglas, they couldn't do that. I don't think there's a chance he flips back. I think he stays with Oregon, and we'll see where Tennessee goes from that. But this is recruiting in 2024 when you recruit at the level Tennessee's at.
Man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, Brent, always fascinating stuff. Always good little nuggets that you bring us on Friday. Brent Hubbs brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Brent Hubbs of VolQuest, we appreciate you. I
appreciate you guys. Ramon, we'll try to go 3 for 3 next Friday, man.
Can't wait, Hubbs.
Rest up, hydrate, do all the things you need to do so we can talk next Friday, all right?
I'm going to need it, Hubbs. I'm going to be honest with you because I got Miami on Monday night, got to come back early and do the show on Tuesday. I ain't complaining because I signed up for this.
It sounds like you're complaining.
Come on,
Miami. Oh, man, I feel so bad for you.
You've been around Coach Former too long, man. Okay, that is a complaint. That's a complaint.
I mean, I don't think I have to be around a Hall of Fame coach to realize that you sounded like you're complaining.
You know what, Hubbs? You know what?
And Kayla is really jealous of you going to Miami. That's her town. That's her jam right there.
Yeah, that is my jam.
A football schedule doesn't allow much fun, is all I tell you, okay?
It's true.
Yes, indeed, Hubbs. I appreciate you playing along with my shenanigans again, man.
All right. You guys have a great rest of the day and enjoy football this weekend.
Yes,
Thanks,
indeed.
you too, Hubbs. That is Brent Hubbs, our good friend of VolQuest, always bringing us good stuff on this Friday morning. More to come when we return. Some interesting things that we found out about Kalen DeBoer really being the favorite when it was coming to taking over for Nick Saban. There was a lot of questions why this might debunk some of those that he was the second or third choice. That's coming up next on RK Dub here on 104.5 The Zone.